These are the top 10 YouTube boxers as of February 2024. Now do keep in mind that this is only my opinion, you guys. Everybody's subject to their own opinion, and I'm going to be basing this list solely off of skill, record, meaning opposition faced, and accomplishments. So I will also be considering those who have been Misfits champions a little bit higher than those who haven't. And on this list, I will not be including professional boxers such as Tommy Fury, because he wasn't necessarily an influencer before he became a pro fighter. And Idris Regal will also not be on this list, because he's a 12-0 fighter calling out influencers, which I think is just a bit absurd. No offense, Idris, I'm sorry. Please don't call me out, I don't want to fight you. The only one I will make an exception for is Anthony Taylor, because everybody lets him slide through for some reason. I guess it's because he was an MMA fighter before he decided to become a crossover boxer. Also, if a fighter has said that they have retired, they will not be on the list. Or if they've been inactive for more than a year and a half to 2 years. Alrighty guys, in at number 1, we have The Fan. I think his karate stance and his overwhelming love for Prime would definitely give anybody in the scene problems. Nah, I'm just playing. In at number 1, we have Jake. It was pretty obvious. It's gotta be Jake. Jake, at this point in time, has accomplished the most, I believe, in the scene, in terms of opposition faced and his record. Of course, he does have that lone loss to Tommy Fury, but since then, he's on a 2-fight win streak, and he's coming off a pretty devastating knockout against Andre August, and I'm sure everybody's seen the uppercut that he landed on him. And yeah, you may say that Andre August was a bit of a can, but he's still a pro boxer, and he's scheduled to fight Ryan Borland next, who is also a pro boxer, who of course is not a world beater by any means. But I think at this point, Jake has decided that he wants to pursue an actual pro boxing career, so fighting Ryan Borland and these type of journeymen isn't necessarily a bad thing for him. And I wouldn't really even consider him like actual journeymen, because real journeymen have double-digit losses sometimes. These guys at least have a positive winning record. But yeah, for now, I think that Jake's pretty secured at number 1. In at number 2, we have none other than KSI. JJ in his last performance showed that he's actually able to hang in there with guys like Tommy Fury. And although it was a slightly controversial decision, I think it's right to put JJ at the number 2 spot, just because he hasn't really, technically speaking, he hasn't had any other wins. Yeah, you can say he was about to beat Joe Fournier, but the elbow kind of took away from that, as it didn't even go on his record as a win. Instead, it went on his record as a no contest. And his last win was the knockout against FaZe Temper, who had already been knocked out by Slim. Not to discredit him at all, but it just isn't as good as beating somebody coming off a win. Now, those who think that JJ should be the number 1 on the list just because he had a closer fight against Tommy Fury than Jake did, I guess the only real way to find out who is number 1 in that case is to have them fight each other, which they should have done already. But for some reason, I know that boxing politics, business moves, and stuff like that gets in the way, so it takes forever to get this fight going. But Jake fought Tommy Fury over a year ago, I believe, and since then I feel like Jake has definitely improved a lot. He's on a 2-fight winning streak, so that's pretty much why I have him above KSI right now. Anyways, moving on. At number 3, we have Slimmy Slim, the Hitman. Now, honestly, this was a hard decision, because I could easily put Dean at number 3 and then move Slim down to number 4. You could pretty easily convince me to switch these two guys around. I have Slim at number 3 because he's coming off a win against Salt Poppy, which turned him into a 2-division champion in Misfits. So, I mean, I can see why people would have Dean above him just because of the clear skill difference and whatnot. But for now, I'm going to keep Slim at number 3, but it's looking like Slim is probably going to go down to number 4 and Dean is going to overtake him, just because Dean is going to be fighting the winner of the lightweight tournament. Shout out to little cracra who actually commented in my video. I didn't even see the comment right away, man. I can't believe I missed it. And then Slim, I'm not really sure who's going to be fighting next. Hopefully it's not who I think it is, but it's looking like it's not going to be as good of an opponent as Salt Poppy was, I think. But obviously at number 4 I have Dean. Not really much else to say about that. Currently he's injured, so he's not going to be able to fight anytime soon, but I wish him the best recovery wise, and hopefully we can see him back in the scene soon enough to fight the winner of that lightweight tournament, who I think is still going to be a little cray-cray, but we shall see. Next up, at number 5, I have none other than Anthony Taylor. Now, I know Anthony Taylor has had some pretty boring performances in his last 2 fights, but that doesn't take away from the fact that he totally derailed both Salt Poppy and King Kenny's hype coming into those fights. I mean, Salt Poppy was coming off the Josh Bruckner knockout, and Anthony Taylor managed to beat him, and I believe he was actually the underdog in that fight. And then against King Kenny, I think the odds were a little bit closer. I'm not 100% sure. I don't remember that one, but King Kenny was definitely coming off of the best performance in all of YouTube boxing history against Whindersson Nunes. So regardless of Anthony Taylor's style, I think he deserves the number 5 spot. And if you watch that sparring session against Salt Poppy, you can see that he has skill. He just, in the actual fights, he just chooses to secure the W than to show his skills. But hopefully in this next fight against Gabe Silva, he'll implement more of a style that he did in that sparring session against Salt Poppy, in which he's actually throwing real punches and not clinching every 5 seconds. And at number 6, I have none other than the big Gibber. Now, I know a lot of people say that he's retired, but as long as Gib hasn't come out and said that he's retired, I don't believe he's retired. He's just waiting for a big payday. Now, if Gib was a little bit more active, I would definitely have him higher up in the list, but for now, I think number 6 is a pretty good spot, just because his last 2 wins were Jarvis and Austin McBroom, and they're decent wins, don't get me wrong, but I feel like Gib definitely needs to make that super fight against Slim. Whoever wins that will just get definitely elevated in the list. Next up, I actually have number 7 and 8 tied, and it's going to be none other than OJ Rose and Ashley Raxu. Both really underrated guys in the scene, but in their last fight, which ended up being a draw, you can see that they have a lot of similarities in the sense that they fight the best opponents available for them. I know they don't have the most clout in the scene, so they don't get the biggest fights, but regardless, they're still fighting who they can. And I think they performed really well in their last fight. It ended up being a lot higher level than I had actually expected. I thought it was just going to be a all-out slugfest. And then up next at number 9, I have none other than Salt Poppy. Now, I know this is kind of controversial because he's on a 2-fight losing streak, but I think Salt Poppy's still one of the most skilled guys in the scene. If only he jabbed more often, man. But what I really like about Salt Poppy is that he's active. He's fighting every chance he gets, and he wants to fight the best of the best. And hopefully he gets a pretty good fight. I mean, I think him versus Deji would be a good fight. I know Vidal made a whole video on that. Salt Poppy against Jarvis would also be a good fight if Salt Poppy could drop a little bit more weight, but who knows? Maybe dropping a lot of weight isn't necessarily a good thing for Salt Poppy. I do want to give a mention to a few guys who almost made the top 10 but didn't quite make it here. First up, we got Logan. I think he's retired. He's gonna do WWE full time. His only win is Dylan Dennis, so regardless, I don't think he would be in the top 10. Next up, Waleed, coming off that loss against Dean, but hey, in this lightweight tournament, he might sneak his way back up to the top 10. You never know. Then we also have Deji. Deji's just super inactive, man. It really sucks that he's inactive. I wish he would fight more. I do. And also, his best win is Swarms, who got knocked out pretty quickly against Ed Matthews, so that kind of brought him down in my opinion. I also have King Kenny here, only because he has 3 losses at this point. I think Kenny just needs to come back. I know he has an opponent and a fight scheduled already, so he just needs to come back, and hopefully he can rematch Temper or something. That would definitely put him back up there. And then I also have Le'Veon Bell here. I really wanted to put him on the list, but I just need to see Le'Veon Bell fight one more time. In at number 10, we have none other than Jarvis. I think the number 10 spot could be very easily interchangeable, but because Jarvis is a champion right now, and he also beat Thompson Eddie, his only loss is against another guy in the top 10 list. I think he fits well in the top 10 spot, and he's always learning. He's still young. I feel like Jarvis definitely has the potential to be a big star in the scene, and definitely get his skill level above a lot of these guys. Alright, so that was my list, guys. Let me know what y'all think in the comments, or if y'all would switch some of these spots around. I know it's all opinion based, but I kind of just try to make this list specifically based on skill, record, and accomplishments. So yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens this year and with this upcoming Misfits that just got announced. I know Fox the G is going to be doing a 2v1, which is insane, and a few lightweight tournament fights already got mentioned, so that completely debunks my entire last video because they didn't do it the way that I thought they were going to do it. But still, man, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to this stuff, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.